This was December 1969, and it was this endless parade of every degenerate in the state all around. And one beatnik with a devil's-looking beard was wearing this sleeping bag made out of the American flag like it was a cape, and that didn't go over too good with some of the angels from the San Jose chapter. So I watched him take quite a beating. And some girls were camped out by the traffic jam, man, blowing bubbles and wearing clown paint. And as the line got closer and closer to the speedway, more and more of them had their shirts off. People were ripping up fences even though the concert was free, man. And there was one lone cop standing there, tight-lipped. Bikes were going over the fence, which was down, and revving the engines as they went over the chain link, and people were cheering, and I thought I was going to try it, but then I decided to just join the thousands of other people who were pushing their way in, and on the outskirts of the crowd was this kid in a coonskin cap tripping way too hard. First he's laughing, then he's crying. Standing right next to him was somebody that looked like his sister, looking on helpless, holding a tambourine. I kept back because I didn't know what to do with my bike, and then I heard the sound of a long line of bikes from behind me. It was a procession of angels ramming, streaming their way straight through. All the engines revving and roaring as they stepped into the crowd, which was parting like the Red Sea, man. Stepping slow right to the front, like evil royalty. So, I just followed behind them. But it was something more, like a magnet was pulling me, and like people were gathering around for a lynching. And right away, there's this explosion. And one of the Harleys parked in the crowd is on fire, and then it's on its side, and some of the angels are putting it out by dumping beers on it. And they thought someone was fucking with one of the bikes, but there was no way that was possible because people were staying as far away from them as they could. It was like a 10-foot radius at all times on either side of them. Later, somebody said the wiring on one of the bikes had shorted out. And I started thinking I may have to abandon my bike because fights were breaking out on both sides of me. The Jefferson Airplane were trying to play, and I was close enough to see Grace Slick standing there on stage with her hands on her hips, shaking her head as an anonymous angel's fist was pumping like a piston into Marty Balin's face while he cowered on stage. And then things got real unfunny real quick. Everybody was waiting for the Stones to come out, man, but they weren't coming out. It was like Mick Jagger was doing it on purpose. They were the only ones who didn't get to Woodstock. They were the bad boys of rock and roll and all that. So we got the angels to fucking raise hell. Deliberately. I saw one surfer-looking dude tripping so hard he was roaring like a lion in slow motion, and kids were being kicked off the stage by the angels, and more took their place, and some angels were stomping on kids' hands, and there was this big black dog on stage snarling and frothing at the mouth, and finally Mick Jagger comes out. And there's only one way you can describe this guy, and that would have to be Nancy-ass pansy boy. He's got this scarf on and what looks like a cross between a girl's blouse and a t-shirt. And a giant red, white, and blue Uncle Sam hat. Yeah, he was a real American patriot, that guy. He's stomping his feet, prancing around. And the stage and the scaffolding is shaking. I thought it was going to collapse. Also, the stage was at the bottom of this little valley area with a crowd all around on the hills surrounding them above, and people inevitably started throwing bottles and shit, with Mick Jagger waving his arms the whole time like he was a conductor. his sidekick there, whatever that guy's name was, he looks like he's from the projects in Liverpool or wherever those guys were from. He's missing teeth. I see the fucking guy is crossing himself. And there was this one black guy in a zoot suit with a beautiful blonde. And he was like a lightning rod for the hate that was brewing to the point of exploding. He knew it too, because he pulled out this little pistol to try and protect himself. It looked like a pea shooter. And this biker with this long dagger-looking thing comes up behind him and chops straight down into the back of this kid's neck and the center of his back with it, and blood was just shooting up into the air, with both of them disappearing into the crowd, and everybody staring at the girl as she vomited, with his blood on her face, and blood dripping off the tassels of her purse, and Mick Jagger in the background asking into the microphone if anybody's fighting. So, naturally, I wanted to get a closer look, just like everybody else. The black kid was on his stomach on the ground in the dirt and not looking too good. His eyes and his mouth were open, and a whole section of his spine was visible above his collar. And people were slipping in the bloody mud to get out of there. It was still on my boots weeks afterwards.
people, sisters, brothers and sisters, brothers